The Midnight Visitor. James was a long-haul truck driver. His job often required him to transport goods across state lines late at night, and he was used to it. He would play the radio, sip his coffee, and drive through the darkness of the highway. It was just another routine night. That night was no different. He was cruising down the road, the clock showing just past 2 a.m. A few more hours to his destination. He figured it was about time to find a place to rest when he spotted an old motel along the highway. Looks decent enough. James pulled his truck into the parking lot and headed to the front desk. An older man with a sullen expression sat behind the counter reading a newspaper. "I'd like a room for the night." The man didn't look up, simply placing a key on the counter. "Room 108. "How do I pay?" The man finally glanced at him, his face unreadable. "In the morning." James took the key, muttered a quick thanks, and walked down the dimly lit hallway. The walls were old, with peeling paint and faded carpets. The place had a slightly eerie feel, but he was too tired to care. He just needed a few hours of sleep. After entering the room, he sat on the bed and began removing his shoes when he heard faint footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate steps moving along the hallway. Maybe another guest wandering around? Ignoring it, he lay down. Just as he was about to close his eyes, knock, knock, knock. James sat up, staring at the door. Who would be knocking at this hour? The front desk clerk? Another guest? "Who is it?" No answer. Just the same rhythmic knocking. Knock, knock, knock. James frowned and looked through the peephole. Nothing. No one was there. What the hell? Annoyed, he opened the door. The hallway was empty. He glanced both ways, but there was no sign of anyone. Shaking his head, he went back inside, convinced it was just some prank. Lying back down, he let exhaustion take over. Knock, knock, knock. The same sound. Again. James gritted his teeth, getting up once more to check. He looked through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was still empty. Damn kids or something? He decided to ignore it. But just as he was drifting off, the doorknob rattled. James shot up, heart pounding. Someone was trying to open the door. He rushed over, gripping the handle from the inside. There was pressure from the other side, someone pushing against it. His grip tightened. Then suddenly, the pressure stopped. He yanked the door open. Nothing. The hallway was silent, still, as if nothing had ever happened. A cold shiver ran down his spine. He shut the door and locked it, twice. This is ridiculous. He stayed awake until morning, his mind racing. As soon as the sun began to rise, he made his way to the front desk. "Hey, was someone walking around last night? Knocking on doors?" The clerk looked at him for a long moment before speaking. "Room 108. No one's supposed to be staying there." "What?" The man's expression didn't change. "Guests who check into that room, they never make it to morning." James felt his blood turn cold. The clerk wasn't joking. "You mean they just disappear?" James asked, his voice lower now. The man nodded slowly. "Some say they hear voices. Some see shadows moving where there shouldn't be any. But by the time the sun rises, they're just gone." James swallowed hard, gripping the counter. "Has anyone ever made it out before?" The old man sighed. "A few, but they never talk about what they saw. They just leave, like you should." James didn't need to be told twice. He rushed back to his room, grabbing his things in a hurry. As he swung the door open, he caught a glimpse of the mirror near the bed, and froze. The reflection showed something else standing in the room, a dark figure, barely distinguishable. looming just behind him. His breath caught in his throat, and he spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. He bolted out of the room, not bothering to close the door. He didn't look back until he was in his truck, engine roaring to life. As he pulled out onto the highway, his hands were trembling. He glanced at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see something or someone standing in the doorway of room 108. There was nothing. But just before the motel disappeared from view, the lights in the hallway flickered. James never took that highway again.